How do you put an end to the good old boy network in Rockwall County? Well, one way would be to hire a conservative woman. It's time for some straight talk, Rockwall County. I'm Bunker Bob Steinhagen, and this is the Bunker Bob Show. Yes, and it is the day before early voting starts. If you're ready to go vote, I hope that you watch this show first, and I hope that your friends and neighbors watch this first, because what you're going to learn in today's show is eye-opening, to say the least. And so I want to focus on the county commissioner's race for Precinct 3. And this, of course, is the seat that is currently held by the longtime good old boy incumbent, Dennis Bailey. And he is running for re-election again. And he wants you to put him back in office. And I've got to tell you, in Rockwall County, if you don't understand what the good old boy network is, well, then you're not paying attention. I didn't fully appreciate the impact of this network until I was the mayor of McLendon-Chisholm, and boy, did I get a rude awakening about how things work in Rockwall County, not just in the city of McLendon-Chisholm. And so, you know, one of the most fascinating things that I guess I've taken away from this whole investigation is I've looked into the record of Dennis Bailey is that while he may not have been raised in a barn, ironically, he lives in one now. And I received a tip on this from someone, and so when they shared with me that this information is true, I really was very skeptical. I said, well, I'm going to have to look at this for myself. I'm not sure that I can just take your word for it. And it's very easy to find this information in the Rockwall County Appraisal District. But that's exactly what I did, and what I found was, to say at the very least, eye-opening. And so this is basically what we're talking about. This is in yellow is a map or a aerial view of the property owned by Dennis Bailey. And just for the sake of understanding, before people think that I'm trying to dox Dennis Bailey, I'm not. All of this is a matter of public record, and people know my address as mayor of McLendon-Chisholm. This is a fairly small community, so if you don't know where Dennis Bailey lives, well, that's okay. I'm not trying to do anything except open your eyes to some facts, and the only way I can do that is to reveal some of this information. So this is his property, and what's interesting about it is that his property is broken up into three different parts. It is taxed in three different parts, and so if you look at the map there, you can. This is a little closer up. You can see the blue section is where Mr. Bailey's home is located, and you can. There's only one structure actually built on this property, and then you have two other sections that are taxed on the tax rules that are different. And so if you look, there's the circled in the red is the home or the barn, as I will highlight for you, and you can see for yourself that what I'm talking about. So this property, the blue property, is 56952 on the Rockwall County Appraisal District information. And so I've got all three properties listed out, and we'll take a look at all three of them so that you can get a better idea of what we're talking about. So property ID number 56952, you can see that the address is that the owner is Dennis Bailey, and his address, which, by the way, I have confirmed, is his voting address as well. So I did confirm that this is his place of residence. But if you look at the Rockwall County Appraisal District, it is his structure, that 3,700 square foot structure is designated as a barn. And as far as the tax rolls are concerned, a barn is considered a place where livestock is housed. And so you see there that the structure is a barn, and the land is used for is considered farm and ranch, and so that's an important designation, I guess, because of you can see there that he gets some benefit from that farm. It's basically called an ag exemption for those of you who are not familiar with that. And so if you look at the assessed value of that property, that portion of the property, the land, and the house is assessed at $144,670. And with that, you can see that his current taxes with exemptions amounts to $1,794.49. And so I think what I want to do is just basically put all of this together and tally it all up so that we can kind of keep track of what's what. And so that's the first piece of property with the barn. The second piece of property is property number 48458, and that is we've already done the first piece of property. Now let's look at the second piece of property, and that, of course, 48458. Again, the owner is Dennis Bailey, and you'll see that the address is different, or it's not necessarily listed there by a house number because there's no house or structure on this, as you can see here. It says under improvements and building that no improvements exist for this property, and the land itself is designated as wildlife refuge. So if you look at the assessed value of the property, it's the assessed value is $170, and so that's the taxable value. And so his current taxes with the current exemptions is $3.50. So if we go back up to our tally, that's the property only. He gets $3.50 is what he's paying for that piece of property. Property number 46998 is the next piece. So we've gotten two down, one more to go. And this is property number 46998. When we scroll down, you can see the owner. Bailey is the owner again. But when you scroll down, this is, again, a piece of property that has no improvements, and like the other, it is designated as wildlife. He gets a tax benefit for that, which means that the assessed value of the property is just $30. So Mr. Bailey pays 60 cents in taxes on that piece of property. So when we look at the property with the barn, the property only, and the other property that's just property only, that amounts to $1,798.59. This is your county commissioner. And the question that I have is, what do you pay in taxes? If you don't know, you're going to know really quick because it's tax season, and the county assessor is going to be collecting that very soon. And so unless you have your taxes put into escrow and you pay it along with your house payment, as some of you do, and if that's you, you should really look at your tax at what you're paying in taxes. You can also go on the Rockwall County tax, CAD. Just basically Google Rockwall CAD, Then look in property search. And by the way, you can look for Dennis Bailey yourself. You can see and verify that everything I've said is true and accurate. And you can also look at your own taxes and what you're paying. So you can kind of get a sense of the difference between how a barn is assessed and how you and I are assessed. And you'll see that it's very different, which really kind of begs the question, because let's not forget that Dennis Bailey believed and said to the citizens of McLendon-Chisholm that he deserves a pay raise. So in addition to what appears to be someone who pays a substantially lower amount of in taxes, and he's basically putting assessments and raising taxes, but he doesn't feel the pain quite as much as you and I do. And in addition, Mr. Bailey gave himself a 23% pay raise increase. And what I find interesting about that, as I'm sure many of you are aware, one of the county commissioners, Sevier, actually was the only member of county commissioners to oppose that. And if you remember, Mr. Sevier not only opposed this pay raise for county commissioners, but he also, after it was passed, he's now given that pay raise back. And I think just given himself the marginal pay raise like everyone else. So it's interesting, isn't it, that Mr. Bailey sees himself as needing more money, that you owe him more money, you pay more in taxes so that he can live high on the hog. And why does he need more taxes anyway? Well, I think one of the reasons is because he works so hard at spending your money. One has to only look as far as the county courthouse, that what I call the cathedral to excess. And if you're not familiar with this, if you're new to Rockwall County, well, let me give you a little history. In 2004, the Rockwall County Commissioners had a bond election for a new county courthouse because our old courthouse was running out of room. It wasn't a really safe place to put prisoners, especially when they were going to court. And so there was a lot of problems with it. And so the mayor and this county commissioners, they decided that they would put a bond election together because they knew if the citizens saw the need, they would understand. They did such a great job of presenting their case to the voters that the voters actually said no. They said, what you're trying to build is too big, it's too much, it's too excessive. Try again. So the county commissioner said that next year in 2005, okay, here it is. You know what? We didn't explain it. We didn't help you understand why this was such a need. And here it is. They laid out their case for voters. And in 2005, voters rejected that too. So 2 elections, one after another, for a bond election. And don't forget, it's also important to understand that voters approved a $100 million bond election for streets and roads. Why is that? Well, maybe because that actually serves a purpose, that has a function. What the county commissioners were presenting to voters was a cathedral to excess. Everyone saw that it was a boondoggle. And so we don't need to worry because, and at least the county commissioners didn't need to worry because Dennis Bailey was there to help lead the way. Because Dennis Bailey basically rejected the opinions of voters and basically helped lead the commissioners to use $37 million of reserve funds. And that passed 3 votes to 2. So Dennis Bailey, in addition to basically using reserve funds that, I don't know, could be used for things like streets and roads, they basically spent money to build a courthouse that is, again, I argue, a cathedral to excess. But guess what? We had someone who would take care of us, because Dennis Bailey was not just a county commissioner who voted for this boondoggle. He also was the official project manager. And when that thing was dedicated, guess what? Yes, there is a monument that right in front of the exit as you go in, and when you come out of the county courthouse next time, if you've never been there or if you want to go, next time you're there, you come out and you will see this plaque dedicated in November 2011. And there is your county commissioner's name emblazoned for posterity forever, so that people can remember what a great and noble public servant he is. You paid for it, and his name's on the building. How's that for conservatism? You know, I think what the most telling thing about this, and this is the fact that what I understand, and this is based upon what Dennis Bailey told me when I was mayor of McLendon-Chisholm, because we were trying to, we were kind of moving in a direction to put in, basically the fire station that we have was so small, but more importantly, the new road that was coming into 05 is going to basically take it out. So we were looking for other places to put it. And so one of the things that I proposed to Commissioner Bailey is they had 3 acres, which I'll talk about in a little bit, 3 acres that held an emergency radio tower. Basically, the county paid $300,000 for those 3 acres because, and ironically, and I'm sure this is just a coincidence, that a very good friend of Dennis Bailey's happened to own that property. Of course, he didn't know anything about that. We can trust that. But those 3 acres, there is an emergency radio tower sitting on that property now, and that's it. And so what I proposed to Dennis Bailey was, Commissioner Bailey, was, look, we need a fire station. That might be a good place for it. Would the county consider trading some land? The city of McLendon-Chisholm has 15 acres of land, and that's a whole other story in and of itself. 15 acres of land for its city hall. That's right. It's the 5,000 square foot city hall building that costs $2.125 million, that voters of McLendon-Chisholm never had the opportunity to vote on, never even knew about it for most people. And so that's what we have. And in addition, they've got 15 acres of property that the city will never use. So I said, what if we gave the county 10 acres? And it took 2 of those acres and put our fire station there. And Dennis Bailey basically told me this. He said, here's the problem. We're kind of running out of room at the county courthouse. You see, because right now we've got the JP courts, and we don't have enough room. If we add another court of law, we're not going to have enough room. Guess what's on the ballot tomorrow? That's right, another court of law. The state approved the Rockwall County to have another court of law. And so his point was, we're going to have to create, and we're going to have to probably build a JP court somewhere out in areas like yours. And so that's what we're holding that property for, so that we can put a county court at law building there. So we're out of room. I think this is a very telling thing, because when this was built, the then county judge, Jerry Hogan, said that this courthouse won't be fully used until the county is built out in a couple of decades. That was 2014. You see why what I mean when I say good old boy network. The good old boy network is certainly working, and they're working hard, aren't they? They're working hard for you, right? Well, this is another interesting fact that you probably don't know, but Commissioner Bailey shares an office space with Commissioner Magnus, and this office space is about 6 by 12 foot. It is the size of my master bedroom closet is bigger than their office, and it is in the old courthouse. So if people want to argue, well, wait a minute, we're not out of room, we've still got plenty of room, well, then ask yourself why. If we've got so much room and this is such a great deal for the citizens, why are the county commissioners sharing a closet-sized room to begin with? This is supposed to be a great deal. We won't be building out for decades, right? Well, that's political speak for you just don't know what you're talking about, right? Listen to what we say, not what we do. Now, this is the guys that share an office. That's Commissioner Magnus and Bailey. They gave themselves a 23% pay raise, and they're feeling good about themselves in front of the emergency radio tower that I was talking about earlier. That tower, by the way, was something that my friend and colleague on the city council, we ran for city council, and we won that race by a landslide and the largest voter turnout in the history of our city by a factor of 3. To give you a sense of how overwhelming that victory was. And Wayne Orchard is his name, County Commissioner Wayne Orchard, City Councilman Wayne Orchard. Man, I'm getting my county and city mixed up. Wayne basically said when we got elected, he said, I've got one thing I want to put on the agenda right away, and that is the emergency radio tower that the city council had rejected putting it on City Hall property. So what he said was, why would we want that radio tower to go somewhere else on the county, and where the county has to pay money, where taxpayers have to foot the bill, when they can just put it on public property? We've got 15 acres, is his point. Great point. Let's bring them back and try again, because we knew that Jerry Klutz was supportive of putting that radio tower there. And so we said, we've got the votes. We kind of figured that out. This was all before we took office. So we kind of had a plan when we went in. And it was the second meeting after we were elected that we brought Mr. Bailey back. And we basically said, hey, listen, we know we told you that, the former city council told you they didn't want the radio tower here. We want to put it here. We want to save taxpayer dollars. The people of Rockwall County deserve that, and we're glad to do that. Commissioner Bailey made it an emphatic, clear presentation that radio tower, they have already identified and have been in negotiations with a property owner that they are so far down the road that to change gears now would actually cost the county more money. He said it would be futile for you guys to vote to do this, to allow this, because we're just so far down the road. You've got engineering studies you have to do. You have to make sure the land is a certain way. He went on and on and on. And if you've ever heard Dennis Bailey talk, which you will, by the way, I've got some audio from him in a little bit later in this program. You'll hear how halting he talks, and this is a maneuver that people do to try and just kind of wear you down. Honestly, by the time Bailey finished his presentation and explaining that there was the deal was done. It's an act of futility for you guys to approve this. I mean, don't even waste your time. We kind of said, okay, all right, fine. So we missed that opportunity. Shame on the former council. 2 weeks later, we get word, not through the mayor, then Mayor Nathan Hodges. No, but we got word from another source that the county commissioners had changed the location of that radio tower, and we're actually putting it on another 3 acres. We also learned that the deal was done and they were spending $300,000 on that 3 acres. And it just so happens that those 3 acres happen to be owned by a friend of Dennis Bailey's. Of course, Mayor Hodges kept that information from us at the request of Commissioner Bailey. There is a reason why Mayor Hodges resigned from office in the middle of his term. That's one of the reasons. But this is what Dennis Bailey does. He plays games. He plays semantics. And ladies and gentlemen, if you go down 205 and And at League Road, you will see an emergency radio tower, and that radio tower costs you $300,000 that it didn't have to, that could have been saved. But Mr. Bailey had different priorities in mind, and it wasn't the people of Rockwall County. I can assure you of that. And so this is the problem that I have with Commissioner Bailey. One of the things that Commissioner Bailey did when I was mayor, I went to before County Commission because the then very corrupt McLendon-Chisholm Volunteer Fire Department, a fire department so corrupt, the fire chief's brother was the quote unquote grant writer that was supposed to be filing grant requests, but the only place he ever filed grant request was to the Texas Forestry Service, and that grant request is a 3-page grant request that a 5-year-old, a 5th grader, I should say, a 5th grader could fill in. But for his work, he contracted with the McLendon-Chisholm Volunteer Fire Department to receive 10% of every grant won. And I've gone through this many times. I've done an entire show on this and shown you the evidence of fact to demonstrate that this contract was true, that this individual received tens of thousands of taxpayer dollars. And as mayor, I was demanding an audit before we move forward with another contract for another year. An audit, by the way, that the then fire chief had agreed to do if we approved that year's budget and gave the volunteer fire department the funds that they were asking for, which amounted to 25% of the city's budget. I said yes, so with one condition: so long as you are willing to put the fire department through an audit, which the city will pay for, going back 5 years. He had no problem with that until it came time for the auditors to come, and then, of course, they changed their mind and started playing politics with our public safety and worked very hard to lie and deceive voters to get me out of office, which they did. They were very successful because lies do work. When you impugn someone's character to such a degree that people like Dennis Bailey and others participated in, that's very effective. So I will just tell you, lies do work. That's why I created this show, because the lies need to stop. So Mr. Bailey was basically the fire department. Now, I lost my train of thought, but this fire department, the volunteer fire department, had a charter that said that it would serve its fire district, and what the county was doing was giving us a small portion of money, $67,500 at the time, which is about, I forget, 14% of the total budget for the MCVFD. The rest came from the city. For us to accept that money, we had to agree to, or the volunteer fire department agreed to serve the unincorporated area of the fire district. The fire chief was playing politics and was trying to force the city's hand when we were in negotiations, when we were saying we were not going to pay anything until we had an audit. So he was trying to force this hand, and he used Commissioner Bailey and the county commissioners and the county judge, David Sweet, to force our hand, tried to force our hand. And so I went before county commissioners and I said, look, what is being proposed, which was they were going to be, at the time, the city and the unincorporated area were bifurcated. The fire district was bifurcated into two sections. It was one fire district with two sections. And it made it very easy for our city to identify the difference and for us to start saying, hey, those who are in the unincorporated area need to start paying something for their fire service, especially since more than half of all fire calls go outside of the city limits of McLendon-Chisholm. And so to prevent us from doing that, they decided that they were going to make the fire district, instead of bifurcated into one and force the citizens of McLendon-Chisholm to continue paying for the fire protection for those who are in the unincorporated area, and we couldn't do anything about it. And I begged the county commissioners. I said, look, you guys, this is not something, you haven't even come to us, you haven't even talked to us about this. You're just doing it. I'm asking that you do that. And what was interesting about that whole discussion is I tried to interject, and Commissioner Bailey said, hold on just a second, Mayor. Hold on just a second. Let me make the motion, and then you can talk about it. Then we'll let you talk about it. I said, oh, okay. So Dennis Bailey made the motion. It was seconded, and then Bailey said, I move to vote. And they voted, and they screwed the citizens of McLendon-Chisholm. Why? Because Mr. Bailey is a politician, and he was gunning to get me out of office too. So that's the way things work in Rockwall County. If you cross the good old boys in Rockwall County, you will pay for it. And they worked hard to get me out of office, and they did a great job. So that was one of those issues. And so just recently, I guess about 3 weeks ago, Commissioner Bailey came back to the city of McLendon-Chisholm. I'm no longer mayor, and he's coming before the city council. And he's talking about the fact that the county commissioners are announcing new subdivision regulations. And these subdivision regulations are basically going to have an impact on the city, or so he says, so he claims. So I'm going to basically go through this very quickly. If you saw last week's show, I'm going to go through a lot of what I talked about then, but the difference is I'm actually going to be showing some better information. I've actually compiled some maps that make it easier for me to see. Last week when I did this show, I actually had a map in my hand and I was trying to point to things. This will make it easier for you to understand what I was talking about last week. So this is Dennis Bailey, the County Commissioner Dennis Bailey, a man who should understand the law when he comes before city council. And by the way, when Dennis Bailey came before our city council, one of the things that he said to us was that he's coming before the city council as a courtesy to put in the emergency radio tower. He does not have to get our approval. That's what he said to us. He's doing it as a courtesy. He doesn't have to go through planning and zoning or the Board of Adjustment. Turns out he did have to go through the Board of Adjustment, and Nathan Hodges, the then mayor of McLendon-Chisholm, made sure that none of the city council members knew that he was going to Board of Adjustment to approve that second site. So the fact is, Mr. Bailey is trying to create present misinformation to the city council, and he gets caught this time by the city attorney. Watch this.
Municipalities have ordinances that govern your development of subdivisions. Counties have regulations, and they are quite different. The interlocal agreement that we have gives you a copy of our regulations, and so you have accepted the responsibility of any developments that are petitioned for within your ETJ areas, that you would take the lead in seeing that you research both your ordinances and our regulations, and then whichever our agreement is, whichever is the more stringent of the two, is what you would enforce.
The state law says that a county and a city must, there's no choice, there's no option. City and a county must get together and come to an agreement where either the city is responsible for platting an ETJ, county is responsible for it, or you basically, like two warring countries, you divvy up the ETJ and certain people are responsible, or the fourth one, and I'm not sure about how it was, I think how the county commissioner phrased it, with all due respect, might not currently be commiserate with the law. It does not say you get to pick and choose whose regulations. It's you get one set of regulation. One set of plating regulations, development regulations, land use regulations, et cetera, for the ETJ. Not that you go, okay, well, which is more appropriate, use the cities or use the counties.
Yeah, so that's what the county commissioner got challenged on that, and what Attorney Holla is saying is true. And so here's the deal: if you live in the city of Rockwall City, Dennis Bailey is, by the way, has been no friend to the citizens of McLendon-Chisholm, but he's also treading on the city of Rockwall and citizens of Rockwall, because what they are trying to do is they are trying to make a way for a certain development that has come into the possession of the city of Rockwall, thanks to yours truly. You see, but there's some problems with it, and I'll let Commissioner Bailey explain that.
Not long ago, a previous council here in McLendon had worked out an agreement with the city of Rockwall to take over some of the ETJ areas that were under your responsibility. So I want to tell you that D.R. Horton picked up a contract that had been through your city several years ago and was approved by TCEQ, that had all the approval from TCEQ to develop about 1,200 acres that were in that particular area. That land swap of ETJs then went over to City of Rockwall.
So that's basically what happened. It is true. We gave that portion of our ETJ to the city of Rockwall. Now, why did we do that? What was behind that? Because this was actually a very controversial decision, according to so many people, and there was a lot of lies shared about what we had done. So here's the facts as it relates to this swap and how that worked. If you notice in the green, or here I'll highlight it a little bit darker so you can see that. All of that in green is what's called the extraterritorial jurisdiction for our city. And for the city of McLendon-Chisholm, our ETJ extends about a half mile outside of the city. Now, the city of McLendon-Chisholm is a general law type A city. We're not home rule as all other cities around us are. You have to have a population of at least 5,000 to even begin talking about becoming home rule. And I am a big opponent of our city ever becoming home rule, fundamentally because it is a necessity for government to grow if you become home rule. If you look at this map, you see that extending around our city is, in fact, that half mile stretch. But if you're using common sense, this is really how the map should look, where our ETJ extends about half a mile. The question really comes: how on earth did that portion of the outskirts of our city, how did that come into being part of our ETJ to begin with? As we zoom in there, you can see, I mean, it doesn't have anything to do with our city. Well, it's a very interesting little story there, because you see, the city of Rockwall was growing, and this property owner was seeing the forest for the trees. They were recognizing that because a home rule city at the time could involuntarily annex property, and for Rockwall, their ETJ extended, I believe, 3 miles, maybe even 5. I don't know, but I think it's at least 3. It would be a matter of time, very, very shortly, before the city of Rockwall could just come in and annex. And they basically made some deals. And they said, hey, you bring us into your ETJ and we'll become part of your city. It was kind of this backroom deal that was kind of done, and so that's how this 4,000 acres became part of it. And there were actually 3 landowners there. Now, the center section, this center portion of it, used to be owned by Koch, a woman last name of Koch, and it was since sold, and now D.R. Horton has possession of that. We basically got a request from the Zeitling Group that was asking to put in a water district. You see, because that's a precursor, by the way, to a mud district. So they wanted to put in a water district so that they could move forward with plans that they had presented to us, where they would be putting a flex, what they call a flex 253-acre multifamily commercial building. And so right across the street from our Sonoma Verde development along Edwards Road, basically put in an apartment complex / commercial development. And the only way for them to do that would be to have a mud district, because they were not inside our city, and our city and the current city council and soon-to-be mayor was doing everything they could to prevent more high-density development. Together with Hinckley, they both actually proposed or made requests for water districts to be put in. Now, if you have to understand that the centerpiece of property had already done that. They had already established a water district through TCEQ, Texas Commission on Water or Environmental Quality. That's what it is. They had already approved the DR, what is now DR Horton land, to have a water district. The only way that our city could stop them from moving forward is for us as a city to be able to provide water to them. And because the city of McLendon-Chisholm doesn't provide water, we don't have a water department. RCH provides water. Basically, if a city cannot provide that water that you're in their ETJ, well then, you then can create your own water district. And this was key. This is key. You have to understand one thing about mud districts, municipal utility districts. If you don't know what a mud district is, it is the bane of every city's existence, because you get no tax benefit from anyone in there. It is a city unto itself, and there is a huge burden that goes along to neighboring cities when mud districts are put in place. If you don't believe me, ask any mayor of any city, and they will tell you the same thing. Do everything you can to stop a mud district. Well, the problem is our city could not stop them from moving forward. They were in our ETJ. We could not provide water to the Zeitling Group or to Hinckley. And so we were kind of at a loss. You know, one of the things that all three of those property owners have in common, that's their attorney. That is Missy Ventura. Mrs. Ventura is also the legal representative for the developer of Sonoma Verde. So this was an opportunity for all three of them, and in a mud district, for it to be profitable, you have to have at least 3,000 acres to really make that profitable. And you can have as high a density development as you want. You can put in apartment complexes. You can do whatever you want in a mud district, pretty much. It is the Wild West, as one state senator described it. And so that's what we were facing. This one portion already had their water district. But here's the thing. Here's when I talk about Dennis Bailey presenting misinformation, this is exactly what I'm talking about when he talked to the McLendon-Chisholm City Council. Listen for yourself.
With the recent changes in legislation in this last 86th session that kind of ties your hands as far as being able to annex property out there. You know, individuals that are out there must, as I understand it, petition you to come out and to take them in.
Yeah, so the SB 6, which was signed into law by Governor Abbott on December 1st of 2019, this was the end of involuntarily annexation from cities. Up until that time, the city of Rockwall could involuntarily annex that property. That's why we basically handed it over to the city of Rockwall, because we knew that the city of Rockwall could provide water, hence they could stop a mud district from moving in. And the city of Rockwall already, Jim Pruitt, the mayor of Rockwall, told me, look, we've already set out our comprehensive plan. We already have all the apartment complexes we need. We will not allow apartment complexes to come in. While we knew that Rockwall wouldn't necessarily restrict high-density neighborhoods from coming in, it was a heck of a lot better than what was being proposed to us. And so the fact is, Mr. Bailey just tried to tell the city council, oh, this is a new law that just came into effect, and now you can't annex anyone. The fact is, we couldn't before, because we're a general law type A city. We could never annex involuntarily. The only way we can annex is when people ask to be annexed. Jim Pruitt, the mayor of Rockwall, is someone that I have always had a good relationship with and someone that I've always respected and continue to respect. Mr. Pruitt is seeing the forest for the trees about what Mr. Bailey is attempting to do in Rockwall County by changing the subdivision regs. Remember, Mr. Bailey was telling the city council that whoever's regs, are more restrictive, that's the one you go with. Well, that's not true. The city and the county have to, by statute, fight over whose statutes there are going to be put in place. See, what Jim Pruitt, mayor of Rockwall, is not going to allow is he's not going to allow the county of Rockwall to basically water down the regs that the city of Rockwall already has. But that's what Bailey is trying to do. So Bailey basically is trying to create the misimpression that Rockwall bad. Rockwall is mean. Rockwall doesn't want to work with developers. The fact is, Rockwall works great with developers. They just don't want to put a mud district in, which is what is being proposed and what's happening now. But here's those of you who are citizens of the city of Rockwall, I want you to listen to what Bailey says, and I think you should be very proud of your mayor, Jim Pruitt.
D.R. Horton came to me and asked me to take a look at the development plans that they had. Their initial proposal was about 3,000 homes on that 1,200 acres that they wanted to ask us for approval for. So I quickly told them, hey, we have an interlocal agreement with the city of Rockwall, so you must go to Rockwall and work with them. They commented at the time that they had been to Rockwall and that they were trying to work out some issues about law enforcement and fire that they would have to have in that particular development. And at the point of time that they were talking to Rockwall, I think Rockwall had said, hey, we don't have much interest in providing those services to you.
That's right. He didn't want to have to provide fire and police services to this district because that is another way to prevent a mud district from coming in. So they can provide the water, but they're not going to be providing any fire or police. So that is an added cost to these developers if they want to move forward with their mud district, which is exactly what they're trying to do. Now, here is what I think is the most telling part of all. Bailey basically lets the cat out of the bag and helps the city council see.
This particular 1,200 acres is contiguous with Mr. Hinckley, who's been, I think, before you in several times before, has about 2,000 acres there. I spoke with him the other day. I think that there could be an opportunity that the two of them, D.R. Horton and Mr. Hinckley, may work out some kind of deal where a package plant or whatever, usage of the septic system might go on Glenn's property over there. They're working together on that.
Yep, they're working together on that. They're going to work on that because they want to screw the people of the city of Rockwall, and of course McLendon-Chisholm. Why? Because they want what they want, and they're going to get whatever it takes. And so this is the reality. Obviously, those slides, it says Coke is the owner of that. They're not the owners of that property, haven't been for some time. But bottom line, this is the kind of thing that happens. Now, what I find most interesting about what Mr. Bailey does here with the city council is he is the sage, wise man who has advice for the city council. And frankly, it's terrible advice, and I'll show you why.
As a side note, I'd like to just, if I may, kind of give you a little bit of my opinion. This is not county, but PIDs and MUDs come about within municipalities or within unincorporated areas or ETJs as a result of the community not being able to provide water. That is the thing that I would encourage the city to take a look at, is to position yourself to be able to get into the water business. And I think that would give you a lot more leverage, certainly within your community. And if for some reason there's certainly other areas of ETJ that you have that you would be able to, I think, more effectively work with subdivisions that are in those particular areas.
What a crock is what I should say to that. I've got some advice for Commissioner Bailey. Why don't you understand better what the realities of our situation is? The city of, first of all, the city of McLendon-Chisholm cannot get into the water business. Don't believe me? Well, the former engineer for the Sonoma Verde development talked about that when he came before city council just recently. And listen to what he has to say.
We attempted to put the city in the water business to basically develop a water system so that you could be in control of your own destiny and create your own development rules, your own land use plans, because when you have utilities that you can offer developers, you're really in the catbird seat as to what kind of development, what kind of communities you want. Unfortunately, we were looking to do a water line that was going to go all the way to Terrell. We hit a snag with the North Texas Municipal Water District and the city of Terrell, so we had to backtrack. So RCH actually provides the water, but we were able to work out an agreement with the city and RCH that the city actually owns the water lines that are in Sonoma Verde.
So that is the empirical fact, and that is that RCH owns our water, owns water for the city of McLendon-Chisholm. And I was told just today that the city of Heath is in the water business, but they only own half of the city, is my understanding. That because RCH owns the other half, and RCH is not giving away giving any city their share of that water business. So the idea that Mr. Bailey has is futile on a number of points. First of all, he's saying that it could benefit us in our ETJ. What ETJ? We have half a mile of ETJ that we can't annex anyway, and there's not enough room anywhere for anyone to put another mud district in except that 4,000 acres. You know, I talk about the good old boy network, and I was reminded today that the good old boys, those who have been ensconced in politics in McLendon-Chisholm and in Rockwall County, this is just a very small, tight-knit group of people. And I've got to tell you, those people who talk about, oh, well, I'm a Republican. What does that mean in Rockwall County? 87% of Rockwall County voted for Donald Trump. To call yourself a Republican is basically call yourself a human in Rockwall County. It means nothing. A Republican does not a conservative make. I say that almost every show. I say that. So because someone's a Republican, we've got a Republican establishment in Rockwall County, folks. And I got to tell you, they are running and gunning hard to keep their good old boys in office. State Rep Justin Holland is having an event tonight, actually. He's having an event tonight that of course, you're going to want to attend because it's supporting Dennis Bailey. It's a meet and greet and get out the vote. That's going to be at Manny's tonight. So be sure to head out there and thank Commissioner Bailey for all the great work that he does for you. Now, as I said when I opened the show, how do you get rid of the good old boy network? I don't know. Maybe bring in a conservative woman. I think Jennie Barker is actually a refreshing change from what we've had. She's 46. She has a bachelor's degree in finance. She's Six Sigma certified. If you have to ask, then don't worry about it. Bottom line, the Six Sigma training is a incredibly high level of business training that I started and I've never finished because it is at a very, very high level of business, understanding business, how businesses work, how to make them work better. And yeah, it applies to government too. Wouldn't that be refreshing to have someone who has who doesn't have a government mindset but a business mindset, who comes from a background in finance? Now, one of the things that she is also is she's on the risk management and insurance advisory council member at TU. That yes, I didn't. That's not a typo, folks. I'm an Aggie. That's little t, little u. You know what? Now that I think about it, I'm not sure I can vote for Jennie either. If she's a T-SIP, is she a T-SIP? I don't know. Of course, I'm kidding. Because that some of my favorite people are T-SIPs, and so. Bottom line, I think that she does have something to bring to the Rockwall County, and I'm not suggesting here that you just vote for the lesser of two. No, I think this is someone who actually has a business mind, who is actually going to bring something to the table. I think that's awesome. Don't you? She is a mom of a blended family, 5 children, 3 grandchildren, and also, you've seen Dennis Bailey send out. If you're on Facebook, my wife has said, "Well, why do I keep getting these ads from Dennis Bailey where he's sidled up next to Governor Abbott getting his picture?" I said, "Well, he's running for office. What do you expect?" So he's bought a lot of social media ads on Facebook. I'm sure you've seen it. And, I think Jennie Barker has a little bit on him. Here's what I think is important. And this is one of the things that she has as part of one of her platforms. She says, and I'm going to read it, "I do not support the self-imposed pay raise. I am committing to returning the pay raise when elected. I am committed to advocate for a pay policy for county commissioners that will prevent this type of egregious pay increase from happening again in Rockwall County." So that brings me to a very simple question. How do you define the word conservative? Because if you were to compare these two individuals, and I realize that Mrs. Barker doesn't have a political record, and maybe that's a good thing, because don't you think it's kind of nice to have an outsider come in and serve us for a change? We have the difference between a career politician and someone who has a career in finance. Dennis Bailey has a big government mindset, and she has a business mindset. Oh yes, don't forget, Mr. Bailey tells you that he's a conservative. How do you define a conservative? I've demonstrated time and again his actions, not his words, his actions. Rhetoric stinks in Rockwall County. You can get it anywhere. But those who actually stand on the conviction of their beliefs, those are the people that I want to support. Now, by the way, Mrs. Barker, who, by the way, I did not recruit Miss Barker. Yeah, she's a citizen of McLendon-Chisholm. I didn't recruit her. She's not come on my show. I hope she does. I hope that she says, "Hey, I'll come on your show and I'll answer some questions," because I have some questions for her. But I'll guarantee you one thing, that if she comes in office and thinks, well, I got Bunker Bob's support, the moment she moves away from conservatism is the moment that my support for her ends. But when we keep comparing these two, you have a Dennis Bailey with a tax and spend record, and of course, Ms. Barker's never run for office. Dennis Bailey, as I've shown you, ignores taxpayers, while Jennie wants to represent them. And this is what's very important. Dennis Bailey, if you reelect him, he's keeping his pay raise. But here's the thing. Jennie Barker, who's basically going to leave a high-paying job, is willing to take a hit for the citizens of McLendon-Chisholm and give back that pay raise. That's what I call character. Isn't that refreshing? Or do you hate these types of people that actually stand on the conviction of your beliefs? Folks, early voting is February 18th through the 28th. It starts tomorrow. And there are locations that are open Saturday and Sunday. You do need to check the online at the Rockwall County Elections Office to get the actual dates and times, because I think it's on Wednesday when the polls are open till 7. It's either Wednesday or Thursday, but most of the days they're open till 5 o'clock. So there's a lot of opportunities for you to get out and vote. The election day is Tuesday, March 3rd, and I hope that you'll get out and vote. Vote early and vote often, as they say in Louisiana. I hope that this has been helpful, and I hope that if you have friends that have not voted and they're not sure who to vote for county commissioner, that you'll pass this along and share this information with them. I know this was a long program, especially those of you in Rockwall County who don't necessarily or don't usually watch this show, but I hope it's been informative. If you have any thoughts, comments, criticisms, suggestions, feel free to email me. And hey, why not subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can see when I go live, or you can watch it later at your leisure. But I hope that this has been helpful, and I hope that you'll come back. Until then, I'm Bunker Bob Steinhagen, and we will see you next time.